Hello.
Hello and welcome back to Hold by Merlot. It's me, Fran, your favorite childless cat lady, and
And Martin.
Marty is our producer. You don't usually see him because Rami is usually here, but Rami is in New York frolicking and doing some shenanigans stuff. Can't wait to hear the stories.
I bet.
But he'll be back probably next week. I myself am probably going to New York this week, so you won't see us for a bit. But as usual, we start off with our wine breaker. Today we are drinking Quincy. It tastes like...
Well, we'll tell you about the taste later because we have to go through the rankings.
Well, the thing is, it's a French wine and the bottle is written in French, so I don't know what it is. I taste it, Marty. I think it's a Chardonnay.
Regardless, that's fair enough, but we still have to go through the ranking.
We're going to go through the rankings, but I think it's a Chardonnay. But don't quote me. I don't know what the heck it is. As I keep saying, marketing 101 for Americans, please write down what type of wine it is or write it in English so at least we know what we're talking about. But it's Quincy Les Clef de Risette. All right. And let me read what it says online about Quincy Le Clef de Risette. It says, look for enticing notes of sweet summer lemon, flint, and lemongrass on a mineral-driven nose with a beguiling element of sweet white flowers as well. Friendly and approachable on the palate, citrus forward without being too tangy. A sublime combination of flavors evoking lime, zest, apricot, and minerals. I gotta say that's a pretty good description. It's a very expensive description. It's French, so I think this bottle is about maybe $22 to $25. I forget how much I paid for it. But it's more on the expensive end. You know, I consider anything over $15 to be kind of expensive. Expensive depends on your budget, right? You're here rolling your eyes, but I think anything over a $15 bottle is expensive. This is about $25 to $30. I'm not sure. I forgot how much I paid today. But it's Quincy, and we are going to rate it. So first, we're going to start off with...
Aroma and smells.
The aroma. Oh, wow. Tell me that's not wow.
It's okay.
Oh my God. It smells like citrus perfume. When I say the French are just good at winemaking, I mean, they're really good at this stuff. This is so delightful. I'm going to give it a 5. It's so good.
I'm going to give this a 3.
I give it a 5. All right, what about the color?
So I'm going to give this a 3 because, and I'll give my explanation. So it's very subtle. It's not that high potent or anything like that. Honestly, it feels just a tad bit watered down, honestly, when it comes to the smell.
Wow.
But I like the smell, and the reason why I'm giving it a 3 is because it's not overpowering, it's not overperforming, and it's not giving the wrong tension.
Okay.
So when we're talking about the ingredients in itself, especially apricot, I can actually smell it.
Yeah.
So that's actually a plus for me. So it's a 3 out of 5 for me.
I give it a 5. And that's one thing I will say about French wines. You can smell the fruits and you can taste the fruits in the wine. I think a lot of times with American wines, you forget you're even drinking something made of grapes. Like, you can actually taste fruity flavors in a lot of French wines. I will give them that. All right, what about the color?
Color for me, it's a 4 out of 5. Very crisp, very clean. Has some oil or tannins on the top, but either way, I think it's well put.
I'm gonna give it a 5. It's excellent. It's beautiful.
You gotta be more critical about it.
No. I'm about these French wines are getting the best ratings, but it's because they're really impressive. This is a crystal clear wine. You could see through the freaking wine. It is clear. It is gorgeous. It is beautiful. It's light. I'm giving it a 5. And taste.
Okay, you go first.
Okay, so I will give you that it is a little watery. I can taste a smidge wateryness of a taste. I'm going to give it...
Be critical now.
I'm going to give it a 3.5. I feel like they're stealing something from me with this wine. Now, the thing is, like I said, I think it's a Chardonnay. I'm not sure if it's a Chardonnay, but this is what it's tasting like. Because the bottle's not written in English. I don't know what kind of wine it is. Whatever the Le Clef de Recute or receipt is. I have no clue what that is. But to me, it tastes like a Chardonnay, but it tastes like a watered down Chardonnay. For all I know, this is what the wine is actually supposed to taste like. But I will give it a 3.5. I still give it a high rating. It still tastes pretty good. Pretty flavorful, but I am tasting a lot of water. Or like, not a lot, but I'm tasting some water.
So I'm determined to give this a 2 out of 5.
Wow. Oh, God.
For the very same reasons that you said.
It tastes a little
It tastes watered down. It's not over potent at all. Like, there's no harsh aftertaste like I experienced with other wines. But this is just I don't know if they're watering down the wines or something like that. But honestly, I feel gypped out.
Yeah, I feel like a smidge.
Yeah. I feel like I got catfish somehow.
Wow.
By wine.
Cat wine.
Yeah, cat wine. Like, it's demonstrated to be like this, like, very, very Frenchy, high class, or like at least like a very decent wine. With all these flavors. I can taste the flavors. Right. So, but the problem is that it's just so watered down. It's like they were afraid to leave it as B.
It's like they wanted you to pay all this money and then give you some cheap crap.
Which it was.
Some cheap version of it, yeah. So I think
I'm a little disappointed when it comes to this wine. I'm going to give it a 2 out of 5. It doesn't taste that bad. It doesn't taste like anything. But the problem is that it's not what it's supposed to be. It's not what it's demonstrated to be. And I can taste more water than wine.
Wow.
And that's not good.
I'm going to give it a 3 out of 5. I think it smells really good. It's got a beautiful color. It has a decent taste. It is French. I have to give it at least a decent rating because they do make their wines really well. But I will say that it is a smidge on the watered down type of taste. So just 3 out of 5. You know, usually I give my French wines 5 out of 5. But Quincy Le Clef de Recite, we're gonna give it
3 out of 5.
3 out of 5. Cheers.
Cheers.
So today's topic is not politics. I know usually we're kind of deep in the trenches and what's going on.
I'm kind of glad that we're taking a break from that.
Yeah, we're taking a break. We're not even going to go into that. We're just taking a break from that for right now. And hopefully even our next episode won't be on politics. Okay, so today's topic is Love is Blind. Love is Blind season 7 just finished. Well, there's still a reunion that's going to air this Wednesday, which is October the 30th. But the entire season is over, and you can pretty much watch it now. You can binge watch it and see it from beginning to end and see which couples make it through that season. And I kind of wanted to discuss Love is Blind and the black women and the black men that they pick to be on the show and the kind of dynamics that play out and some questions that I kind of have about their casting. Love is Blind is in season 7, which I think it means it's been 7 years, right?
8 years.
7 or 8 years, right? A season is a year, right?
Yeah, just about a year.
Okay. So this is its 7th rendition, and you would think that by the 7th time that they've done something, that they've kind of perfected it and that the show is getting better. I don't think that's what's happening. I think the show is getting more and more confusing. I think especially with the casting of the different black people that they keep putting on and black representation in general. So I'm gonna go ahead.
Yeah, so before we continue, just wanted to put it out there. I don't watch the show.
Okay.
I barely watch the show at all. I did watch 2 episodes of this 7th season. And I've also watched season 5 or 4 of the wrap-up episode.
Right.
And I thought that one had a little bit more character. This one was missing a lot of...
And we will get to that.
Yeah,
it was missing a lot.
It was missing a lot. There's something that will we'll touch up and along the way.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just want to say like I'm mostly a newbie, and Fran's the more of the expert one here.
Thank you.
So I will give my critique as much as I can and as a new perspective.
Right, and just to let you know, Marty, you're not missing out on anything. The show gets more and more confusing as you watch it. So I'm going to give some brief history and some pointers about Love is Blind. And just to be fair to Love is Blind too, it is a reality television show. So for all intents and purposes, this is a choice for all of the people that go on this show. They do sign a contract. And they do choose to air out all of their dirty laundry, and they do choose to share their lives with you. So with that being said, you know, all of the bad things that do happen to these characters, because a lot of bad things happen to them on TV that is then put out for our digestion. And, you know, people do feel bad for some of the characters that they put on there. But to be fair to Love is Blind and to Nick and Vanessa Lachey, who are the hosts of Love is Blind, this is a personal choice for anyone who gets involved in any reality TV show. You don't just get put on. You have to apply to be put on. They don't pick you. I don't think so. I think you have to apply to be on the show.
You apply to be on the terms, but they pick you at the end.
Right. They do pick you, but you do have to say yes. Right? Yeah. So just to be fair to them, know that, you know, I am critiquing the show, but on the behalf of the people that they pick. But this is a choice for the people to be on. A lot of the people I think get on are, for all intents and purposes, I think they're on the show for ulterior motives. I don't think they're on the show. Love is Blind is a show that typically ends in marriage. I don't think most of these people on this show are looking to get married. I think most of them are on it to become famous and to brand themselves as something to sell to companies. So with that being said, if you'd like to learn a little bit about how the depth of the show, how it's produced, what goes into it, Jessie Woo goes into it. You can just Google Jessie Woo on YouTube. She does a ton of tea parties, spilling the tea parties on Love is Blind on YouTube. What she found out that I kind of picked out is there is, I believe, a 500 questionnaire that the people fill out before they're picked. So they have to fill out a gigantic questionnaire to kind of figure out what kind of personalities they are. From this, the casting directors and the people who are picking them learn what the contestants' fears and triggers are. All right. And from that, they kind of put them into situations and pick activities to poke at their fears and triggers. Okay. The producers also call the shots. So sometimes when you see cast members doing and saying things that you think would kind of go against what you think that character would do, understand that it's produced and it's highly edited, and that this might not have been what the contestant wanted to do. The producers have pushed them to do something to keep the storyline going, sure. Also to make it more interesting. Sure. Okay? The show is riddled with excessive amounts of alcohol. Okay? If you've ever noticed on the show from season 1 to 7, they're always carrying gold goblets. And they're always, I think, what they're showing is that they're basically drinking wine the whole time. Yeah. So the cast members are given a lot of alcohol. And from what one of the contestants said that's kind of suing the Love is Blind production is that they're not given water. And if you want to drink water, you have to go to the bathroom and drink water there or get water from a sink. Like, they're not given bottled water or anything like that. You have to figure out how to get your own water, which is really strange. So they're not really encouraging hydration. They're encouraging excessive alcohol consumption. Then they don't really give them a lot to eat. So that same contestant that's kind of suing Love is Blind said that, he said, look at all of the seasons and notice how little the contestants are eating. They're like, you'll see them eating sometimes, but for the most part, they're just carrying goblets of wine around and they're just drinking. So he said a lot of them lose weight just being on the show because they're not being fed, right? And then to top it all off, you know, you're you have these people doing 500 questionnaires that are I think are picked apart by psychologists, by the way, to really kind of pinpoint like what kind of characters you're getting on the show. After that, when they cast them and put them on the show, they pay them very, very little. They work for 16 to 18 hours a day for $1,000, and when it's actually kind of rounded up, they're getting paid something like $5 or $6 an hour. They're 16 to 18 hours. Remember, there's only 24 hours in a day. They're essentially working all day for $1,000, and when you think, and it's $1,000.
Who's working all day?
All the contestants. It's 16 to 18-hour days, pretty much, and they get $1,000 each day as a contractor. Mm-hmm. So, you're getting paid, like, taxes is always about 30%, period, right? So they're getting $700 a day. And when you divide it up by the hours, it's something like $6 or $7 an hour that they're getting paid, which is totally illegal because minimum wage is at least $7.25 an hour in the United States. That's the barest minimum you can pay anybody, I think, all across the country. So that's pretty nuts. And I'm going to tell you about the concept of the show because I know not everybody watches this show, but it is a huge hit on Netflix.
Give us the concept.
So the concept of the show is it's something like 50 people are picked. So let's say a bunch of people apply or they're found and whatnot. Let's say they pick 50 people, 25 women and 25 men. They take them to a studio and they put them in these things called pods. One side of the pods is for the men, one side of the pods is for the women. And the pods essentially have like sleeping areas and like a living room area, and they're completely separated. So the men are on one side, the women are on one side, and they're put like a certain amount of rooms on each side of the pods, and they're allowed to date for a certain amount of hours for filming, right? So they cannot see each other. So it's kind of like half is on this side and half is on that side. And then when they start going onto these dates, they go into rooms and they, the man could go into, like the woman goes into a room or the man goes into a room, but they're separated by the divider and they cannot see one another. Within 1 week, you're given about a week to get engaged. So you're doing like rapid dating, getting to know people. They all have like little notebooks. They write down each person's name and they try to figure out who's the best person that they can be compatible with. But the point of the show is that within that first week, or within the first 5 days or so, you need to get engaged if you want to move on to the next part of the show. So typically about 4 to 6 couples make it to the engagement phase. So they're talking to each other. They've never met each other. So they figure out what their likes and dislikes are. They figure out where they're from, who they are, what they like, what they do for fun, etc., etc. And essentially what they're trying to do is match up to see who's the best person for their personality, because the whole show is called Love is Blind. So they're trying to figure out if you could really marry someone you've never seen, but you kind of match up with what it is that you typically would like in a person, right? So one of the things that they say a lot is, the contestants are always like, hey, I'm always dating in the outside world. It hasn't worked. And the first thing that you're attracted to someone is their looks. For once, no one gets to see what I look like, so they're going to just like me for the inside, for who I am on the inside. A lot of the contestants say that. I don't know if I believe that so much. Okay, so let me continue with the concept of the show. So within 5 to 7 days, they get engaged. The couples that didn't get engaged, as soon as they're engaged, they pretty much get to see that person relatively soon afterwards. Maybe like a day after. They get to meet the person now. And we've done an episode on this on another platform. But essentially, the people that they pick on this show are attractive, all right? These people are relatively attractive people. They're good looking. They're in good shape. They have great jobs. And for all intents and purposes, they seem like really nice people. And the funny thing is, one of the things that I've always noticed when they first see one another, and I'm going to say this, and it's not what other people think. I think especially the men, they typically don't like who they've picked. All right? And you can see it in their faces. They almost always zoom in on the guy's face when the man first sees the woman. I've never really seen them zoom in on the woman when she first sees the man. It's almost like they don't even care what the woman thinks of the man. It's what the man thinks of the woman, right? And most of the times, I don't think these guys really like the women that they have picked, all right? And like I said, if you look through the contestants, you know, you can be as vain as you want, you can be as mean as you want. These are relatively good-looking people. These are good-looking people. All right, they've got it going on. They got a lot going on for themselves. And for all intents and purposes, you should be wondering, why are these people even single, right? So so after they see one another, they're then flown off to some kind of resort for like a weekend. So they get to be with one another. Of course, lots of alcohol, lots of really fun activities to kind of make them bond. And I think that part of the show is generally pushing them to just kind of like go ahead and have sex. Like they have rose petals all over their beds, lots of nice, beautiful sceneries, and cutesy-wootsy type of activities for them to kind of bond and come together. After that, they go home. They go back to their home states. So most of the times, they pick a state, or actually they usually pick a city, and people who are dating are from that city. So they go back to the city where their show had casted from, and they go back to their jobs, they go back to their friends and family, and now it's time for the two of them that have picked one another to meet their friends and family. After that, they meet the parents. Everybody has to say what they have to say. The contestants typically kind of zoom forward, and everybody all magically kind of come together, and they're like, okay, go ahead and get married. And after about 20, maybe 15, 20 days after they've met their friends and family, they planned the wedding, and then they go to the altar, and then they say yes or no at the altar.
Okay.
The yes or no at the altar is, I'm going to just say it right now, it's about 50-50.
Okay.
All right. You don't know what people are going to say, but yeah, that's probably the most interesting part of the show. Go ahead, Marty. I know you sound like you have questions.
Right. So let me go down through my list real quick that I wrote down just now. And then we're going to go into the engagement of season 7 in general. So as I said before, I watched two episodes of season 7. I already have a certain impression even before the show and after the show. And I've also watched one of the wrap-ups on the previous seasons. So a couple of things. So you said that... Oh, good. Let's start off with the point of attractive people. It's a hit or miss, honestly. It's a hit or miss. Some of them are attractive.
Marty, that is very rude.
Okay, I'm gonna continue. But yeah, I don't know exactly if it's that they're attractive. It's more the fact that they're grown people with having their own lives. Okay. I think that it just comes off as attractive, but I wouldn't necessarily say that they are attractive. They're just well put. What's the term I'm looking for? They're well put together people.
I think what it is, Marty, is if you're thinking about Hollywood beauty, or you're thinking of like, I don't know,
I am
Halle Berry and Jennifer Aniston beauty kind of thing. Okay, yeah. Okay, if you're thinking about that kind of beauty, okay, maybe they might not be attractive to you. I'm talking about in the general scheme of things, in the general scheme of regular people out in these streets. These are nice-looking people. Most of them would get hit on at bars and restaurants. Right. These are nice-looking people with good jobs.
So basically,
and when you get to know them, most of them they're pretty nice people.
So yeah, as I'm going to reiterate, it doesn't take away from the fact that I don't believe they're necessarily attractive people. They're just well put together.
It's a matter of opinion. I think they're attractive.
It's not a matter of opinion. I'm actually just giving the facts here at this point of time. You're just misguided. And you're seeing something that Hollywood has produced in order to make you think that they're attractive. But they're not attractive. They're well put together people. Some of them are attractive. Some of them are okay. In general, I've seen the other seasons in which I've seen the contestants. These are people I've seen off the folks. But the only thing that I'm going to put out there is that I can see why they chose these particular people. Is because when you're putting stuff on TV shows, you want the audience to be glued on the TV. You're not going to want somebody who has a beer belly walking around the show. You're not going to want somebody who seems to have never touched a makeup kit in their life to be walking throughout that house and anything like that.
Right.
You want people to be engaged into, oh, what are these good looking, we'll put together people with like big careers, and we'll talk about the careers of these people
And
later
we were
on.
talking about black people today, so we
Right.
need to get
So
to
we'll
that.
we'll get to that in a second. But yeah, I just generally disagree that they're attractive in that sense. More the terms are more accurate. If as me as a newcomer, I would call these people well put together people.
Okay, let's move on from that.
So when it comes to the food and water, I found that very interesting.
Really?
I found that
Did you
very
notice
interesting.
though that I didn't know that until one of the
notice that.
contestants. So one of the contestants and a lawyer putting together a lawsuit on the behalf of some of the castmates that basically want to shed light on the conditions that these people are working under, which is basically slave wage labor. And what they're saying is a lot of these reality TV shows that you see, like these other dating shows, these modeling shows and whatnot, they're saying like this is how a lot of them are. They pay you very, very little per day. They have these stringent contracts that you must follow. And if you don't follow the contracts, you don't get paid. So, but they don't get paid properly.
Yeah, I'll get to that in a second. I found that very interesting when it came to low on food and water, because when you're drinking alcohol, you need
water. Yeah,
you need water. But here's the thing. I think what they're playing with right here is a tactic that they want people to go into a primal sort of state in order to for the show to work.
And that's what the contestant who is suing the show said. He said that one of the things they do is they will create situations knowing how dehydrated and kind of inebriated some people are.
Yeah.
And I gotta say, none of the people really look inebriated when you're watching the show. But when you think about like all the different kind of like dramatic things that happen, you're like, yeah, this is what happens when people overthink and they're kind of drinking.
Yeah.
Maybe they don't show the parts when they're throwing up, when they come in like and you get a little toasty in your eyes and going back in your head a little bit. You might look like you're a little high. Yeah. Maybe they don't show those parts, but maybe they show the part right before that. You know what I mean? Before you go like really downhill when you're drunk.
So for me, I can understand. It actually makes sense. It makes complete sense that the conditions of that house is exactly how they presented when it comes to low food and water. Let's talk about the cost. The producers and the cast and the terms of working. These people are contestants in the show, and I don't really see them as working. I see them as, because it doesn't make any sense to pay them any higher than that.
Really?
It doesn't. It just doesn't make any sense at all.
16 to 18 hours a day filming. You don't think they deserve more than $1,000?
No, because this is it doesn't make any sense at all to pay them any higher, because it doesn't make any sense to do so. And I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why.
The show?
I will tell you why. So people on Survivor, people on those other reality TV shows, they don't get paid that high at all. They get a chance to do something.
Doesn't make it right.
No. It does make it right, because that's not the type of environment to be making a lot of money. You get the making out of money after the show. Like you use that notoriety, or you use that whatever you're doing on the show, and that's your kind of your payment. Basically, this is the literal term of like they're paying you with exposure, because it's more generally true.
I guess
it seems unfair until you think into the fact of like, wait, so you got a whole bunch of casts that you're trying to figure out if they're going to work or not going to work. Why am I going to pay this person a lot more if they're not going to give me everything that I can out of the show? It doesn't make a lot of sense until you see that the final contestants push on forward. I think in some certain aspects in the contract, they get a pay bump if they move on to the next level or something like that.
Basically, it's $1,000. Sorry, it's not $1,000 a day. Sorry, y'all. It's $1,000 a week. It's 8 weeks, $1,000 a week. I'm sorry, it's not $1,000 a day. Please, forgive me for that. It's $1,000 a week. At 8 weeks, $8,000 for the entire production, And it's all at the producer's discretion. So if you don't do what you're supposed to do, if they feel like you haven't done your job or whatever, they can also forfeit some of the money. So yeah, I'm sorry about that, Marty. That is totally my fault.
Right. So for me, I think like it's generally more fair because one, you're in a stationary environment. Two, the expectation is that everything within the home is going to be videotaped and everything. You're just going to be playing a character throughout the whole time. You're not necessarily, in terms of working, you're sort of like playing a role throughout the whole time. Right. I'm thinking about it in terms of like back in the days with MTV, Real World and all that stuff. They were playing mostly characters of themselves for the cameras, but they weren't. But it doesn't make any sense to pay them any more than that because they are stationary throughout the whole time.
Okay, so I'm going to add right there that the way I'm looking at it now, especially with the money and like the little kind of humps and hurdles that they have to go through to make sure that they move to the next level, I think Love is Blind essentially makes marriage a game.
It does.
Okay? And I've never been married. Okay, I've been proposed to a couple of times. But marriage is no joke.
It's not.
Okay? If you know what marriage entails, or if you have married friends like I do, you would not get married in it's about 30 days from 0 to 30. They basically get married within a month. So essentially the characters are playing an obstacle kind of game to get to the finish line, which is marriage. And one of the things that Jessie Wu discovered, and go on YouTube and you can look up Jessie Wu and her friend, I believe it's Simone Redwine, who did a great kind of layout of how the show is produced. The show airs a year after it's produced. So you're not allowed to get divorced within that time frame. So for any couple that doesn't work out, you can't get your marriage annulled. And when you can't get a marriage annulled, oh my God, if you have no prenup, you are splitting everything about 50-50. And what they're saying is a lot of the contestants who get divorced after a year because they cannot get their marriages annulled have a lot of problems, have a lot of financial setbacks, simply because they cannot get divorced within the time frame to have the marriage counted as an annulment so that they can at least, leave without having to pay the other contestant anything. Now, a lot of the contestants don't talk about this because of the contract that they have with Love is Blind. They're not allowed to really talk about it. They're not allowed to talk about anything. And if they do talk, they can get sued by Love is Blind for exposing what the show really does to them.
So I want to mention something here, and then we'll move on to season 7.
No, I'm going to talk
about.
We're
going to move on into season 7 in general, in terms of how they played out, and especially about the black characters on that show.
Okay.
But yeah, I'm going to say that. And I just want to like put myself into trying to explain it in terms of somebody who doesn't really watch the show all that much. I was generally impressed in the wrap up of the last season, either season 5 or season 4, because some of the characters was really spilling some of the actual tea that just wasn't showed in the show. And I actually appreciated that a lot because it was a lot more different than what the show really just tends to offer.
Yeah.
The first 2 episodes was
of what season?
Of season 7.
Okay.
And this is where we're going to start transitioning into this season. So I watched season 1 and season 2, and I started to get to know some of the characters and all that stuff. And some of them are pretty cool. Some of them are alright. There's one that I generally disliked from the onset, and I could tell why that person was going to be a problem. But as I'm watching, and I'm continuing to watch, I'm asking myself, okay, there's too much music playing.
Yeah, they do a lot of emotional side effects through music.
Yeah, there's too much side effects. There's so much background music that's just like really like pushing, that's just setting the wrong tone.
Young and the Restless crap.
Yeah. Like this, there's a person who's like, you know what? I need to think about what what I'm going to say to this person. Do I really care about this person? I like what they're saying, all that stuff. And I'm going to explain that other issue too. But then the moment that person says all of that, there's this big dramatic sound in the background of like, is this going to be a big, it's a big deal sort of like music song. And I'm like, what the fuck? Calm down, show.
Right.
We're just starting out at season 1. Like, sorry, at episode 1. God damn. Like, give them a break.
Right.
This is the most cheesiest production I have ever seen.
Yeah, the season 7 had very bad production quality.
It did.
And there were so many gaps within season 7. They went into so many crazy situations without explaining anything or just giving you liners, and you're like, whoa, like, how come you didn't show that on camera?
Right.
That was odd.
Also, I couldn't take by episode 2. Here's how the production like really is kind of fucking up. A lot of the contestants are starting to say the L word very quickly, and that really set me aside.
They've always done that though.
No, but like this is
season 1 through 7. One of the things that they start doing within the pods is they start with this "I love you" nonsense. They've never met this person. Right. They don't know who this person is. They don't know what they look like. They only know what the person is telling them, and they're saying "I love you," and that is probably one of the most annoying things about the show. Yes. Because you don't just tell someone that you love them. I'm not saying I've never met anyone, and within a week I was like, God damn, I really love this person. But it's really, really rare that you find someone that within a week you're like totally madly in love with this person.
And remember what I said earlier.
And usually that's puppy love.
Right.
When you think about it.
And remember what I said earlier. These people, to me, they're not really attractive. They're well put together people. They're adults. I have never met an adult who's well put together, say the L word, within the first couple of weeks of dating someone.
Remember, these people are drinking. They have very little food and water.
Which is kind of like why it makes... you mentioning that makes all sense.
All by themselves. They're not allowed to see the sunrise or the sunset.
But it's also like, I'm trying to say about the production in itself. Yeah. They don't know how to really do subtlety all that well. They really, really don't. Not only are the songs really inappropriate, and not inappropriate as in like like
songs really, it's
and
just
as in like in a sense of like
breaks.
No, I'm going to say like it's really inappropriate, and not in a sense of like offensiveness or anything. Just they choose it at the wrong timing, and they choose it in the wrong tone that the person or the character is not really trying to convey, but the song is really trying to say to the audience, oh, they're actually feeling that way, even though the character is like saying something that isn't including that at all. And so when we're talking about the L word in these little sessions, I'm like, whoa, dude, like, did we miss like a couple of episodes or something like that? This is only season 2.
This is all pretend. A lot of this, a lot of this show is pretend.
And for me, I'm like, this is just episode 2. There's already 2 characters that are talking about love that are they're already professing like really, really personal things about themselves, which I know that's supposed to be a part of the show, but like I'm expecting like sort of like gradual gift by at most. Gosh. Sorry, what am I looking for? I don't know. The threshold should have started at episode 3. Episode 2 and 1, they're already confessing that they were already like mentally abused by their parents, or that their cancer-ridden family all died and all that. I'm like, bro, what? Okay. 90% of women would run from that scenario. Now I understand why everyone is drunk at all times. Because in order for me to be in that type of environment and not be creeped out is if I had like tons of alcohol running in my system. Because remember, water hydrates you from all that alcohol. Food absorbs the alcohol out of your system. And the producers and the show needs these characters to be as high riddled as possible with alcohol at all times in order for the show to actually work. Yes. So for me, like, Love is Blind is not really blind at all. It is coerced. And I can already tell from episode 2 of this show.
They're almost always pushing narratives.
Yeah. And it's just, Oh god, I cannot stress
and
enough
it's
just
like
how much the songs are like really like it grinds my gears. I wish I could just mute the time, but every time it's always every minute, every minute, every minute I'm going to the
yeah, it was a
bathroom.
lot of
I
music.
love you and blah 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 blah. Did you? The character is going to the bathroom. Are they in love with the bathroom? Is that what they're trying to say?
Right.
But yeah. Anyways, so with all that being said,
Okay, let me go through, because this was supposed to be about the black characters on this show,
Take it
especially,
off.
especially the black women. I'm just going to go
Take it
through a
off.
few of the seasons, black women and black men relationships, and I'm going to give a brief kind of play out of their relationships, okay? Season 1, and forgive me if I miss any, Season 1 had Diamond and Carlton. Diamond was a regular, nice-looking black woman who ended up with Carlton, who actually right when they got to the resort area, but a couple of days into being at the resort, Carlton reveals that he's been in relationships with men. And that now that he's gotten a little bit older, he's gotten over that phase. And now he's looking for a wife and he wants to be with women. Now, the thing about it is, Diamond is pissed because she's like, look, if you had told me this in the pods, which is where they do the experiment to see who you're going to get engaged to, she's like, I would have never chosen you. Which is totally understandable because it is a deal breaker for some women. Okay? So that played out so badly. Carlton chews out Diamond, makes fun of her hair, and makes it seem like there's something wrong with her.
Make sure you talk to the camera.
And that relationship ends. Okay? So that's the season 1. I think that's the only black couple in season 1. Season 2 had Iyanna and I think it might be Jarrett. Iyanna and Jarrett do get married. You don't see anything really go on between them. Only for the reunion to come out, I want to say about a year later, showing that Jarrett, who's a business owner, I think in Houston, was always cheating on her, coming home late, and eventually, I think it's Iyanna ends up breaking off the relationship, and they end up getting divorced. In season 3, there was SK and Raven. SK was, I want to say he was Nigerian. Raven, I think, is an African American.
Mm-hmm.
Raven, who kind of pretends to be standoffish in the end, wants to really marry SK, gets into the whole Nigerian experience, starts to like embrace his culture, only for SK to say no to her at the altar. Okay? After he says no to her, I want to say at the reunion, I think it came out that he re-proposed to her, and then it turns out he was with a couple other women, and they break off the engagement again. So Raven gets dragged 2 times within the SK drama. In season 4, there was Zach and Bliss. Zach and Bliss are a little bit different. Zach and Bliss is actually, it's not, Zach is not black. So we could actually skip season 4. Season 5, there's, season 5 was Aaliyah and Uche. One of the most tragic seasons. Aaliyah and Uche are in a relationship, in the pods and whatnot. And right before they are set to get engaged, which is the episode where Uche is supposed to propose to Aaliyah, Aaliyah finds out that Uche in the past had been dating the girl she's befriended the most on the show.
Okay.
And she is thoroughly upset because that girl has told her some pretty bad information about Uche. She's presented him to be this bad character. She breaks off the engagement. Aaliyah then, in the end, decides to at least meet him to see, like, what it is. Because he's insistent that they still meet. They meet only for him to be like, I don't want this to work anyway. We're not getting engaged. He cuts her off because, So Aaliyah and Uche eventually meet. Uche doesn't want to marry Aaliyah. And one of the things that Uche did that was so unbelievably disrespectful in season 5 is that he basically tells the castmates that Aaliyah is not his type. Aaliyah is not somebody he would date. And it is so unbelievably disrespectful to do something like that. Knowing that all of the castmates are going to... If you've watched any of the previous seasons, you know you're going to get dogged for that. This guy, Uche, was just so full of himself and so egotistical and so mean to Aaliyah, so disrespectful for absolutely no reason. Aaliyah was a sweetheart on the show. She had everything going for herself, and he had absolutely no right to do that to her on national television. It was so mean. So then season 7, we now have 4 black women in season 7. 4 actual black couples, because the guy I thought was white actually turns out to be like a quarter Nigerian or something like that. Okay, and all right, so the first couple we have is Marissa and Ramses. Marissa is former military. Ramses is I think is a program coordinator within the Washington, D.C. area. And they have a couple of cringe scenes. One, Marissa has an autoimmune disease, so she can't, when you have autoimmune disease, it could be something like, it seems like I think she has lupus or something like that, but she has times when her body isn't really functioning. And if you know anyone who has an autoimmune disease, when they get things, what they call flare-ups, they really can't be touched, and you really need them to be alone so that they can kind of get through that episode. Ramses, who is sex crazy, will not leave her alone. I think especially during one of her flare-ups. And you just watch this guy kind of aggravate her. And you're like, oh my God, this guy is nuts. So, Ramses also doesn't want to use contraception, which was such an ick conversation that they had, because he also doesn't want her to get pregnant. And she can't take contraception because of her autoimmune disease. But he doesn't want to have any concessions about using condoms. Like, he's just insistent that they have condomless sex, even though he also doesn't want her to have a child. And she does give him an ultimatum saying, hey, listen, we could do that if you want, but if I get pregnant, I'm going to have the baby. No, Ramses won't have it. The saddest moment in this season's episode is when Ramses breaks up with Marissa. And for all intents and purposes, Ramses and Marissa are pretty much all over each other. Besides these little ick moments I just told you, they are at it like rabbits. Okay? Every time you see them, they are kissing, they're smooching. They seem like they are really into one another. Right. And what it seems like in the end is Ramses was just to get himself some raw, what. And after that he realized he can't get that anymore, I don't think he was really interested in her. And in the end, he makes up some scenario saying that his parents or his family members called him and they told him, hey, it's not a good idea for you to get married because you've already been married and it didn't work. Don't do it. And Marissa cries, she cries like a baby. It was one of those cries where you were like, oh my God, this girl really wanted to marry this man. I think she really loved this guy for whatever reason. Within those 30 days, she really fell in love with him. And she really wanted this. And at the end of it, she calls her mom and she's just bawling. And Jessie Wu and I think it's Simone Redwine talked about how sad it is because she had to call her parent. And they were like, it's really bad when you're calling your mom and dad. That means the pain is unbearable. You're not calling a best friend. You're calling your mom or dad. That's really bad. That means you really need a hug. That means you're truly, you're hurt to your core. So that was Marissa and Ramses. Then you had Monica and Steven. So Steven, who looks like a white guy, appears as a white guy, says that he recently found out that his dad is like basically like a quarter Nigerian. So we're going to count Steven as black. Online, they were calling him Uluwa Steven because he very much came across as a regular old Nigerian, do Nigerian guy stuff. Google Nigerian guy stuff if you don't know what I'm talking about. And he and Monica are in a pretty decent relationship. Monica, I think, is in a rush to get married because she's 36 years old. And she said on the show that she really wanted to be married because she feels like her clock is ticking.
Fair enough.
Steven is an electrician. I forgot what Monica is, but everybody's pretty much like got a nice job. Steven constantly talks about sex. Constantly kind of pushing the sex conversation, and has a really cringe moment when he emphasizes how much it kind of sounded like he was looking forward to the aftermath of the show and becoming famous and having women kind of throw themselves at him. Now, he didn't put it that way, but that's the way I read it. He was talking to one of the castmates during fireworks where he was supposed to be sharing it with Monica, his chosen partner. And Monica was like, why didn't you come to watch the fireworks with me? I really wanted to have that moment with you. He was like, oh yeah, me and Garrett, we were really talking about, how hard, things are going to be because once we get back into the real world and people know who we are, all kind of women are just going to be throwing themselves at us, wanting us to have sex with them. Monica is horrified. And of course, even before the show ends, Steven is cheating on Monica. Steven tells Monica, and I can't believe she even believed this crap, that he needs to go to a sleep test. All right. At no point in the show do we hear that Steven has sleep apnea or sleep problems, but all of a sudden Steven has to go to a sleep test. He doesn't spend the night with Monica, and when he comes home, they're talking, and I think something like the way I read it online is she was waiting for a text message from one of the other couples for them to go out, and Steven was the one that was communicating with them. He went to the bathroom, and his phone pinged, and she actually just thought it was the couple getting back to her. And she went, if you don't learn anything from this today, don't ever go on a man's phone, okay? Whew, that is a no-no for anyone. I don't care how much you trust someone, don't ever go on their phone. It's whatever you're looking for, you're going to find. That's the only thing I can tell you from experience. But she goes into the guy's phone, finds all these DMs that was dinging, and it wasn't the other couple, from some skank he'd basically been with the night before. And it was all kinds of sexual stuff. Of course, Steven denies everything. Denies that they actually met up. And she was like, did you go to a sleep test, or were you with this girl? And eventually she's like, well, let me see the rest of the DMs. And he's like, oh, I deleted all the other messages. She calls that same couple that they were supposed to hang out with that night. They come over, they console her. Steven weasels his way out. He does a really bad apology and kind of is like, peace out, and leaves her. Monica is left pretty much alone crying. And that's how that scene ends. So then,
oh, that's hilarious.
From there we have Tyler and Alex. Tyler and Alex, they're an interesting couple. Tyler is from the military, also like Marissa, and he drops major bombs on Alex almost as soon as he meets her. Okay, and remember, this is all edited. We don't know at what point he actually told her these things. This is how we're introduced to them as a couple. Okay. Tim tells everyone that, well, Alex basically, that he had 2 siblings and they both died, and it's really affected him ever since. Mm-hmm. And he bonds with Alex because Alex is really big on family. Alex's parents both have multiple sclerosis, so she talks about how, like, how their relationship has played out and how it affects her. But Tim, when he's talking to Alex, really puts a lot of his emotional baggage onto her, and I don't know if it's that he's just trying to get to the next phase with Alex, but he convinces her that he wants to marry her. And when they meet in the real world, oh, not in the real, when they meet for the first time, when they get engaged, I can't really tell if if Tim likes Alex, but I could tell that Alex likes Tim. Tim is from the military. He looks like a really disciplined guy. He looks like he wakes up and works out every single day. And I'm not trying to say that Alex doesn't look the same way, but Tim kind of comes across as the type of guy that would typically date someone that looks like a Stepford wife. And Alex is not a Stepford wife. She is a very pretty girl, but she's no Stepford wife. When they get into the real world, one of the things that happens that's really interesting is they get into like headbutts. Tim told Alex in the pods that, if I start getting all headstrong and heavy and I start arguing with you, I want you to really give it back to me. When they get onto the real world, when they're fighting, Tim is livid with Alex. He is pissed off with her. And he's like, he comes across as someone who says something, but like doesn't really mean it. Because I was really confused. I was like, you said you wanted someone to kind of challenge you. But the 2 times you guys argue, they don't show the arguments, by the way. Tim is really mad at her about these arguments. So I could tell when the relationship ended between Tim and Alex, it was after their first fight. Because after their first fight, Tim's demeanor kind of just changes. And this is when I go back to Jesse Wu and Simone Redwine's kind of podcast where they talked about how the producers are the one making the shots. This is where you can really tell that they were just dragging this thing along and Tim had no intentions of marrying this girl. In the end, Tim breaks up with Alex in the most bizarre way possible. He comes up to her after she's met his family and basically tells her that when she met his parents, he felt like she was disrespectful towards them in the aftermath. And I'm not going to go into it. You got to go watch it yourself. But Alex is so confused. Tim is so dry and so cold. And like a little kid, he's like, there's no way in this world I could ever see you being my wife. Goodbye. Just like that. And just gets up and like walks away. Like he basically walks away like a little 5-year-old. And it was so cold. It was so cut and dry. He basically walks up. He gets his keys. He gets his jacket. And he walks right out. Unlike Steven and Monica. Steven sits down. It's still not good the way they broke up. But he sat down. He talked to her. He apologized. He didn't really try to make amends because what he did was so gross. But it wasn't this stomping out and drying cold kind of messy breakup. The way Tim leaves Alex made me feel so sad for her.
I think I remember seeing a clip.
It was so sad because it was so cold. I was like, nobody deserves that.
I remember seeing that clip. In which he said something like that. I could see in his face, like anything that she said.
He didn't care.
Like anything that she would have said or argued with, he was like, whatever, this is just kind of like feeding my case. So as soon as like she was done saying it, like she was expecting for him to catch on the argument. Yeah. But he was like, no, like I told you this is what I said, blah, blah, blah. I can't see you as my wife. Goodbye. Yeah. And walks off. And I'm like, damn, it's I wonder what this was about. Like, I thought it was like from a movie or something like that. I wasn't expecting it to be from this season.
If you watch the show, like you can tell the two of them were never going to get along in the first place. When Tim goes into his house, Tim's house is neat. It's super neat. And remember, he's military. A lot of military people, have you ever met military people? Their places are typically very organized. Yeah. Because the military drills into people certain types of disciplines. And one of them is cleanliness. One of them is working out, ranks, commands, all kinds of things. But there's certain skill sets that the military gives you. And Tim is one of those guys. he's cut and dry. And he's about that. I mean, he says it was the best decision for him was going in, and the second best decision was him getting out. But he's a military guy. And Alex, when he goes to her house is a hot mess. It was like a hoarder's nightmare. And it was pretty bad. And I was like, wow. When I saw that, I was like, yeah, he didn't want to be with you after the first fight. This is just the icing on the cake for him to be like, oh, hell no. And it was surprising and shocking to me that she would let him see her house like that. Granted, it's a TV show. I was like, you couldn't call someone in your neck of the woods to be like, hey, can you get a cleaner to go over there and like just fix it up for me? Or basically not show him your space.
Yeah.
Why did you let him? Did you see his house? Are you listening to this guy? Tim is so... Tim seems like the type of guy who's going to tell the woman what to do. He seems like the type of guy who's going to be bringing in all the money. And he seems like the type of guy who's going to be calling all of the shots. And guys like that are not coming home to a messy house. I can tell you that. No way in hell. But the way he left her, I thought was kind of really mean, condescending, uncalled for, mean-spirited. He just left her on the couch. She was eating dinner. And he just walked away from her like she meant absolutely nothing to him. And I just thought that was it was so mean.